President, please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the floor is given to the defense team for Mr. Kyew Sampon to resume the questioning. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I resume the examination where we left off. Can you hear me? We were talking about Susti and his work. Can you tell the chamber who Susti's direct supervisor was?
Mr. President, Ho was the direct supervisor.
Est-ce qu'il vous arrivait de donner des...
Did it happen that you had to give direct instructions to Susti, or you still had to go through... You still had to go through Ho?
Thank you. There was one case when Ho was assigned to be Sun Sen's guard when he visited the East. I gave instructions to Susti through pain, and at the time, Susti did not implement the instructions, and I made annotations afterwards. During the investigation, I made the point already. On one particular occasion, I gave an instruction to Susti through pain, and usually Ho was the one who gave instruction to Susti.
Est-ce que vous avez souvenir de consignes?
Do you recall any particular instructions that Ho issued to Susti as regards the manner in which Vietnamese prisoners entering S21 had to be registered?
The principle regarding the principle of the CPK, the collective group controlled and individual responsible. So the work was dependent on Susti to correct, to register, or to draw up the lists.
Donc, ma question était, est-ce que vous vous souvenez?
My question was whether you know whether specific instructions were given by Ho regarding the registration of Vietnamese. Should I understand from your answer that you do not recall that, or you did not know that at the time?
Both of us spoke different languages. I spoke a communist language a while ago. To lead collectively, to be responsible individually. I was in charge of S21 on overall tasks, and Ho was individual responsible for his tasks, and that included the registration of names. So modifications of names in the list were dependent on him. So I did not poke my fingers into his business. That was the principle: to lead collectively, to be responsible individually.
Je vais vous lire un...
I will read out to you a passage from Susti's testimony before the chamber to see whether that would jog your memory. It was the hearing of the 3rd of June, and the draft, in the draft, it is before 15 hours 31 and 03 seconds, and it was in answer to a question put to him by Judge Lavergne. And this is what Susti stated, and I quote, "Since I could not ask questions regarding the positions of Vietnamese when their names were registered, Ho asked me to write the label spy where position was mentioned. And when it had to do with Vietnamese civilians arrested in Kampong, they were indicated to be fishermen. However, we knew that they entered the country either by sea at Kampong Som or at Svai Rien by land." End of quote. Do you recall whether Ho issued such instructions to Susti and that their names were registered depending on the point of entry of Vietnamese? Or this is an issue you never discussed with Ho because it was part of his specific tasks?
Mr. President, I have informed the chamber already that Vietnamese with weapons coming into our land were labeled soldiers, and as for civilians, they were labeled agents. That was the implementation throughout the country. That was the principle, even at S21.
Et donc, sur cette consigne particulière...
And as regards that particular instruction, do you recall raising the matter with Ho, discussing the matter with Ho, or not?
That was one principle among others, and everyone was aware of the principle. Those who had weapons in their hands, and after they rose their hands, after they were arrested, they were labeled soldiers. No matter where they, no matter which ports of entry, we arrested them. And again, the general principle was that those with the weapons were considered prisoners of war or soldiers. The question is banal in French, as I said.
C'est maintenant. Je voudrais...
I would now like us to talk about another point, and that is something you discussed or mentioned at the hearing of the 14th of June 2016, shortly after 13 hours 38 and 38 seconds. And you referred to the drafting of letters to be shown to certain prisoners, which you used as a method or a ploy to compel them to confess. And I quote what you stated. As regards the interrogation of Tun, he came to my home to produce a letter that had to be shown to Tun in order for him to confess. Once more, he claimed to have written a letter to me, and it stated, "Comrade, we are thinking of the measures to be taken in your case." End of quote. I believe you also referred to a similar draft prepared by Son Sen as a tactic, and this time it was in case 02/1 at the hearing of the 27th of March 2012, document E1/54.1, and your answer was shortly after 11 hours 10 and 41 seconds, and you stated this was an invented document. It's an invention, and it was a tactic to extract confessions from prisoners. We did not report this document to the superiors. We never showed it to them. So, at least, you referred to the fabrication of these documents as a tactic on 2 occasions. My question is whether such a tactic was frequent as part of the interrogations that were conducted at S21.
Mr. President, concerning the fake documents, that started to happen when Sun Sen came to my house. He, at the time, made a mention about the interrogation of Siet Chai, alias Tum. He said that he wanted to write to Tum so that Tum confessed. That would alleviate the situation. So at the time he said he did not know whether he referred Tum as contemptible Tum or just Tum. After that, he decided that he wrote a letter to me and asked me to show the letter to him. And he made mention that if Tum confessed, the Angka would reconsider. So the letter that he wrote, the content of the letter that he wrote to me was as follows: to Comrade Tum, if you confessed, Angka would pardon you. That was the first case of fabricating a letter to convince the convicted person, said the witness, to confess. And there was another case of fabrication of the letter concerning Ya case, and the documents, the contemporaneous document survive, and you can find that in the document. Bond and I used the same trick as I used with Brother Sun Sen. That does not apply to all prisoners.
Ma question était plus précise.
My question was more specific. I wanted to know whether, aside from the two cases, it was a tactic that you often use. Did you use that tactic apart from those two cases, or you recall only those two cases?
I made clear testimony already. There were two cases, as I mentioned. Sun Sen came to see me at my house in the case of Tum, and Pon and I discussed with one another concerning the case of Cambodia. President, please move on. I think the answer is clear.
Interrogé à propos.
Question with regard to the date of your relocation to S21. You referred to issues regarding dates under the hearing of the 7th of June 2016. Shortly before 15 hours 37 and 33 seconds, you stated, and you gave this sentence, or and not may have predated or postdated the document, end of quote. My question is whether it happened often that at S21, whether it was at the PJ or subsequently at the premises of the Ponyayat High School, it happens that documents were predated or postdated.
President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you may proceed, Judge Lavanya.
Counsel Gise, can you tell us what document you are referring to? Because you are talking of a document that whose date may have been, which was predated. Are you talking of a particular document or a general document? Gise, it's a general question that flows from an answer the witness gave referring to a document that was predated. He talked of document E3/8493. And since this is something that came from the witness's own mouth, I wanted to know whether there was a practice of predating or post-dating documents. This question flows directly from the witness's prior statement.
Donc, Monsieur le témoin,
So, witness, let me reiterate my question. Did it happen that documents were predated or post-dated at S21, whether at the PJ or subsequently at the Ponyayat High School?
Mr. President, regarding the dates of the documents, in the case 001 against me, there were 3 dates of when were recorded when PEM came into S21, and we had a reenaction at 21, and at that location, Su Chi made mention about the important prisoners that I was not informed of, and the date was, and the document was predated, as Su Chi said. Yes, of course, some important prisoners were post-dated during the period that Nat came to finish off his tasks at S21. Some documents were were predated and how frequently that happened, I could not tell you. So again, when NAT came to finish off tasks at S21, some documents concerning prisoners were predated. And how frequently that happened, I cannot say so. But in general, normal prisoner or ordinary prisoners were dated correctly, and for some other prisoner, for example, important prisoner, the date were predated or post-dated, and the dates may have been wrong as well.
Et est-ce qu'il y avait une raison particulière?
And was there any particular reason for predating or post-dating documents?
Mr. President, this is a repetitive question to explore the specific reasons in the case of predating and post-dating of documents. I do not know what are the specific reasons the Council wants to know from me. I believe I have answered clearly already.
En fait, ma question n'est.
In fact, my question is not repetitive. It is designed to elicit more information. If you do not know the answer, you are free to say you don't know the answer. But it is not up to you to determine whether my questions are repetitive or not. And the Chamber rules on parties' objections. If you do not know, you can just tell the Chamber you do not know. And I'll take your answer for it. Do I take it from your remarks that you do not know the reasons why those documents were predated or post-dated?
Mr. President, my testimony is clear. When Nat came to finish off his tasks, some documents were post-dated, said the witness. That was the reason. That the predating or post-dating was initiated by Nat. Some prisoners, when they came into S21, were not made known to Suti, so registration was not made properly, and these prisoners were post-dated later on. So what are the specific reasons you want from me? I believe I have testified clearly.
Que ce soit bien clair quand je vous pose des questions.
It should be very clear that when I put questions to you, I expect you to simply answer in light of the knowledge you had at the time, and that is all. I would now like us to talk about Ho and Nat. You stated at the hearing of the 8th of June at about 9:33 that Ho and Nat, prior to your becoming head of S21, worked in close collaboration with one another. Over and above the working relations they had with one another, do you know whether they had any particular personal relations with one another?
Thank you, Mr. President. The three individuals, who are they?
មិនដំណើរណាត
The three individuals refer to Nat, Duik, you yourself, and Ho. We did not happen to see each other at S21 for the first time. Nat and I were progressive persons. We loved communism. And we were part of the party branch in 1976 at Kampong Thom, 6566 in Kampong Thom. Back then, Nat was the member of a party branch at Kampong Thom with me, and I was chief.
Excuse me, witness.
President, what is going on? I do not really understand the intention of the council. You put the question to find out about the three individuals, and then you interrupted. So you just want the short answer, yes or no only? The witness has explained about the reasons, the roles, position when they held at the time, and that led to the encounters of the three individuals. The facts were complicated. A situation happened a long time ago. Some facts did not happen only within the temporal period of the court, that is the 3 years, 8 months and 20 days, that some events happened before that temporal jurisdiction during the establishment of the Communist Party of Cambodia, and it had something to do with the facts before us as well. Could you explain the court the intention of the question? So what the answer you want from the witness, particularly about the particular relation between the three individuals?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, I interrupted the witness because I believe there was a problem in the interpretation. I didn't talk of three persons. I talked only of two persons, Nat and Ho, and that is why I wanted to draw the witness's attention to that problem, because I thought there was an interpretation problem. That is why I interrupted him, Mr. President. If I had rephrased the question, there would have been less difficulty. I was referring only to two persons, relations between two persons, Ho and Nat.
President, very well. Then, Duik, could you please provide the answer in relation to the case of Ho and Nat relation? I heard you connected the two individuals with Duik. That's why I mentioned the group of three. Witness, thank you, Mr. President. I made a clarification a while ago with the President, and you said the group of three were Ho, Nat, and Duik. Now I am answering the question. I started to know Ho when I was imprisoned at a appraisal together. And when I was transferred to Sector 25 in December 1975, I met Ho again. And Nat, as for Nat, he was sent from the battalion of the Southwest to be in charge of Saang, Kok Thom, Kin Swai, and Leuk Dai General Staff. It was from then that Ho was the chief of Special Force Unit under Nat. So, as for the connection or relation between the two, as when a subordinate could perform a better task for the chief, then the relation or connection was good between the two.
So I understand from your answer that Hor and Nat had good personal relations. My following question now is linked to the moment when Nat was removed from the head of S21. So did you play any role in that, in the fact that Nat was removed from the head of S21?
Regarding the term position, it was rather generic. Maybe the defense counsel or wants to know, maybe I actually instigated Son Sen to remove Nat. If there is your intention, then I will provide the following response. No, I did not do that. Not at all. Because when he was the chief, it was rather easy for me to be the deputy, since I had gone through a lot of police work. When Nat was removed by the superior, I actually begged Son Sen to replace him with Hok, since Hok was a former student of Son Sen and he was a progressive person for the CPK as well. But then Son Sen scolded me that why I wanted that, and what was this? What was it so special about S21? So, in conclusion, I did not have any plan at all to instigate to the superior to remove Nat.
Dans le cadre
In case 02/1 at the hearing of 21 March 2012, document E1/52.1, and this was a little bit before 3:49 and 55 seconds in the afternoon. You said the following: but I would criticize not on a daily basis when the occasion arose, and I did so because I thought that was part of my duties, since I had seen Nat make mistakes. So I tried, I would criticize him. End of quote. So my question: on the base of your statements here, don't you believe that your criticism of Nat played a role in his removal from the leadership of S21?
Thank you, Counsel. And allow me to respond, Mr. President. I did not think about that. And indeed, it was not because of that matter. First, I made criticism of Nat in one case only, and that was a one-to-one criticism. Because we were from the same party branch of progressive persons, I told him that it was too risky for him to make arbitrary arrest of those individuals. And if he died, his deputy, would also die. And that would be contradicting the party's line. And for that reason, I had to speak to him. And that was because we also had a good relationship since before 1967, before we ran to the Maki forest. And when Son Sen called us to go to work, he wanted to behave in his superior capacity. He spoke about the arrest of Tia Kok and about the vehicle. Son Sen removed his glasses and then put it on and started scolding him that he was so selfish to make that arbitrary arrest. And Nat was so scared upon hearing that. And that was one case. As for the removal of Nat, I wondered why he was removed, and I think Council should refer to the party's policy, that is not to give forces to Nat and to Min, that is Chang Chak Krai, to control. And that was a document of Brother Pol Pot. And Pol Pot gave that instructions to the party center, and I did not know the motives behind the matter. So it was not my intervention at all in his removal.
Now I would like to turn to the practical day-to-day work at S21. You said that you would read confessions, you would make annotations, and you would forward them to your superior. And those confessions were given to you by the interrogator unit. So my question is, did you have any direct ties with the interrogators? Or was it always Hor who would provide you with the interrogators' reports?
Regarding ordinary prisoners, once they had been interrogated, the report would be sent to Ho, and Ho would forward them to me. As for important prisoners or special prisoners, initially Son Sen gave firm instructions not to allow Ho to read those confessions. And this is what I have just stated. So Pon and Tui would bring me those documents. And later on, the matter of Pum actually expanded within S21. And Ho also read the documents of Pon. And later on, it was forwarded to me, sometimes Ho and sometimes Pon, who gave me those documents, and that was the development at S21.
And to be sure I understood you well, does that mean that no matter the report, no matter the kind of interrogation, whether it be the interrogation of ordinary people or of important people, you would systematically get the reports? Is that so?
I think my previous response is clear. That I said for ordinary prisoners, the reports would go to her and her would forward them to me. As for special prisoners, And of course, as I said, parties did not want Ho to read it since he leaked it before. I used the word leaked because he raised the matter with Son Sen about someone who was implicated. And Son Sen said Pham was not a traitor, and Son Sen gave me firm instruction not allow Ho to read the confessions of important or special prisoners. And I stopped that for a while, and later on Ho realized the principle of secrecy. And that's since the matter was leaked to the East Zone, he was allowed to read also confessions of special prisoners, and then he would forward them to me. I hope that is clear enough, Counsel.
Based on what you just told us with regard to Ho's escape, did you speak to him directly? And did you feel that there was a change in your relations with Ho? At one point in time, did you ask yourself if Ho was afraid of you? Or is this something that never crossed your mind?
The matter that Ho reported to Son Sen and asked him about whether Pham was a traitor. It was Ho who told me that he reported the matter to Son Sen. And separately, Son Sen gave me instructions not to allow Ho to read confessions in relation to Pham. And he observes that I did not have any grasp against him. Then the process went rather smoothly, and that was the development there.
I'm putting this question to you in relation to Ho's fear, or possible fear, because you told us that he was working with Nat when he was at S21. And I'd like to read to you statements by Susti to see if this refreshes your memory, or if any case, if this rings a bell with regard to your relations with Nat and Ho. So the first excerpt I'm going to read out is the DCCAM document of Susti document E3/9320, Khmer ERN 000522028, English 00337982, French 0028202526. And the question that's put to Susti is the following. Tanat was afraid of Duke? And Susti's answer is the following. Yes. He also was afraid of Duke. However, Tanat was managing a division, but he was afraid of Duke. I came to this conclusion based on my analysis. And Ho was very much afraid of Tanat. And to complete what I just said, in your trial, witness, Susti said at the hearing of 28 July 2009, document E3/7466, this was after 2:13 and 27 seconds in the afternoon. he said, yes, once again, I would like to repeat that I don't know what kind of relations there were between Nat and Duik, but I can tell you that with regard to Hor and Duik, Hor was very much afraid of Duik. End of quote. So let me get back to my original question. This is what Susti said. So in your relations with Nat and with Hor, did you get the impression that both of these people were afraid of you?
Yes, Nat was afraid of me, but sometimes he dared to do something as well. Because I only spoke to him when there were issues in relation to the party's line, and I spoke to him about his arbitrary arrest, and of course I referred to him as brother, that is Bong. So I spoke to him only when it mattered the party's line. But sometimes he was rather daring, and everybody knew that, even my superior. And as for Nat's removal, it was not my initiative to do that. I was so happy already to be his deputy. Because to be a chief, it was difficult, rather more difficult than a deputy. And please, I urge you again to reach the party's line, and that may be published in March 76. Brother Paul says that Nat and Paul should not be provided with any forces. And that was the instructions from the Secretary of the Communist Party of Cambodia, and I did not know as to from when Nat was the subject of scrutiny. When Nat spoke to me, sometimes he threatened me, but I only replied to him based on the principle of the party's line. President, what about her and you? What about the relationship? Was her also afraid of you? Because actually the council put a question to you in relation to the two individuals, so to be more complete, please respond to this individual relationship as well. Witness, thank you, President. I had kindness for her, although when sometimes he made a mistake against me, I kept silent. In my role as a leader, I had kindness for people under my leadership. As a leader, I had three principles against my subordinates, mainly that is to understand them and to forgive them, to have kindness toward them. When Nat was removed, Ho was rather concerned. I spoke to him about the three principles of leadership, and he was afraid of me.
Now I'd like to turn back to the report that you would read and to the annotations that you would write. You said that you would send the reports first of all to Son Sen, and upon several occasions documents were shown to you that had been annotated by Son Sen, and I'd like you to confirm that these annotations by Son Sen, you had never seen them directly. It is only during your trial that you saw Son Sen's annotations for the first time, or in any case, after the facts. So, did I understand your testimony properly?
Witness, please go on. And International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to seek clarification, make sure that is counsel asking solely in regards to annotations on confessions or other documents written by Son Sen?
Yes, indeed. Let me specify this. I'm speaking about annotations on confessions. So let me rephrase my question. So, did you see Son Sen's annotations on confessions during the decay period or after the facts, when these documents were provided to you by other people?
Regarding my annotations to Brother Son Sen, I knew that for documents that I sent to my superior, I annotated. However, for documents that I stored, that I kept, I did not make any annotation, and that was the principle. And later on, this court was not yet established, and it was around end of April 1999, Nate Thayer presented to me a confession of Kung Kien, alias Wade, and the person was used to work with me, and I made annotations on certain pages of that confession. Then there was a comment from Brother Noon, and I spoke to Christopher Peshu at Otamano Room Restaurant, rather hotel. For a series of days from 28 April until the 3rd of May, I said for the documents that I sent, Son Sen would have annotated, and those documents that should belong to the party center's office. However, the documents that maintained at S21 did not bear any of his annotation. Later on, when I was sent from the military tribunal to this court, that is on the 31st of July 2007, I was questioned by the OCIJ. So for me, by that time, the annotations made by Son Sen was not a new document that was shown to me. The first time that I saw it was when Nate Thayer presented to me.
But in order for things to be clear here, at the time, during the facts, and I'm going to quote from you in case 2-1, this is at the hearing of 4 April 2012, document E1/59.1, and this was a little bit before 2:43 and 50 seconds, and you said, the S21 documents that were sent to my superiors only contained my annotations on the confessions given by the prisoners. Later on, after having sent the reports, the documents that I had annotated previously were never sent back to me. End of quote. So you confirm this, correct?
Yes, Council, I concur with this statement. But as I stated, I saw my superior's annotation since 27 or 28 April 1999. That's why I provided you with my response that I did not for the first time see it on the 31st July 2007 when I was brought here, but I saw his annotation since 1999. That is annotation on the report that I sent to him.
Now let me turn to another short topic before the lunch break. In your testimony on 7 June 2016, a little bit after 2:03 and 51 seconds in the afternoon, you spoke about a young man by the name of Simon, S-I-M-M-O-N. He was a young cham who was working at S21. Does this ring a bell?
Regarding Smail alias Man, he was an individual from 703, and he was at the company level. Paul was the secretary and Paul was a deputy of that company, and that individual was a member, male alias Man. That is his name.
And what was his position at S21?
Simel alias Man initially was a guard in a guard company. Later on, he committed an offense. Then I decided to send him to work with Hui at the rice fields. And later on, he committed another mistake. He fled. Then he was arrested. He was interrogated, and subsequently he was smashed.
Now I would like to provide you with a photograph and like to know if you recognize Man in this photograph. This is document E3/1822, ERN 0078508. And with the leave of the President, I would like to provide the document in question to the witness in order to see if we are speaking about this person.
Yes, you may proceed, counsel.
Et avec l'autorisation de Monsieur le Président.
And with the President's leave, and this will be my last point, can we please display this photograph on the screen?
Yes, you may proceed.
S'agit-il?
So, is this the man you were speaking about? Do you recognize him on this photograph?
Je vois que vous êtes en train.
I see that you are reading the comments. Comments provided by the author of Ukuba. And this photograph comes from that book. But I'd like you to rely on your recollections and to let us know if this photograph rings a bell. because in the comments it's indicated that we're not very sure about this young man's identity. So I'd like to know if you have any recollections with regard to this young man. Witness. Witness.
Thank you, and allow me to clarify it. I used to see a photograph of the face of a man since I used to use him. Initially, I sent him to Leang with bond, that is to take a letter to my fiancée. And even from my attempts to identify him through the photo, I'm still unclear as whether it is him. And that's why I try to read the annotation underneath in order to refresh my memory, but it is still unclear to me. President, thank you, witness. This is now time for a lunch break. We'll take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon to continue our proceedings. Court officer, please assist the witness. Rather, security personnel, you are instructed to take Kirsampon as well as witness to the waiting rooms downstairs separately, and have Kirsampon returns to the courtroom before 1:30. As for witness, please have him back into the courtroom at 1:30 this afternoon. The court is now in recess.